Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Getting Started, Website Building 101. On behalf of my WordPress.com colleagues, really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I'm very excited to offer you this session with our awesome colleagues, Aaron and Lai. Before I do, a couple quick notes to get us started for the week. Don't forget, check out wordpress.com/webinars. Each day this week, we have topics. We have payments tomorrow. We have blogging quick start on Wednesday, WooCommerce on Thursday, and we will again on Friday do our Spanish language version of today's Website Building 101. So please register, join us, share it, join us as many times as we can possibly be of help. We're also recording so that we can share today's webinar on YouTube afterwards. And lastly, a quick reminder to use the Q&A feature in Zoom. We won't be using chat, we'll be using Q&A, and my colleague Lai and I will be in there answering as many of your questions as we can, and we'll save a few good ones to ask Aaron at the end of today's webinar. So without further ado, don't forget afterwards, by the way, also you'll receive an email that includes a survey, your discount code for watching us today, and the video of today's webinar. So I'll see you in Q&A. Thank you again for joining us. And without further ado, I'm excited to turn it over to Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there. Give me just a second to share my screen here. I've lost you. Okay. All right. So like you said, my name is Erin, and I am based in Vermont. I am just going to show you quickly how to kind of run through setting up a new site. So since I already have an account with multiple sites, the way that I would start that would be to come all the way down here and click Add New Site. And we're going to create a brand new one. And I live in Vermont, so I'm going to do a maple syrup website. So let's say Vermont maple. Let's see if the free I'm setting up my initial WordPress.com domain here. So I'm going to choose this vermontsugarhouse.wordpress.com domain. Choose my plan. And then it's going to go ahead and set that site up, and it'll be ready to get started shortly. This is presenting the option to purchase quick start sessions to work directly with a happiness engineer to help you set up a site if that's extra help that you feel that you would need, but we're going to skip past that in this case. And then that's going to land us here on my home page, where you'll have a setup list of things that you can do to kind of get the basics of your site set up. So starting with giving your site a name. We chose to call this Vermont Sugar House. I don't know if you're familiar with the production of maple syrup, but the place where the maple trees are is the sugar bush, and then the place where the syrup is made is a sugar house. So that's why it's Sugar House. And then tagline. This is where you would put something like, you know, best syrup in Vermont kind of thing. And so we'll go ahead and save that. And then once you're ready to launch your site, which wouldn't be at this particular moment, this is where you would come back to do that. There's a tutorial here that you can start with, but I'm just going to jump right into sort of explaining the various controls. Most of what you're going to do initially with the website is going to be over here in this left-hand column of options. This is where you can create pages and posts. Pages are more static content, like your home page and about page, contact page, and those will be the pages that you start off with by default. If you want to add pages to that, you can do so, and we will in a minute, by clicking Add New Page here. But if you want to start fresh, you can definitely do that by clicking these three dots, and there are several options here to copy a page or copy the link to the page, but you can trash that page and start fresh. You can also set, like our home page here is already created and it's set as the home page for the site. And if we wanted to select our blog page as the place where our posts go, you can do that here also by clicking those three dots and set as your post page. There are two different kinds of websites generally on WordPress. There's like a business website that will have a static homepage and then a separate page for a blog. Or if you're a blogger and you want all of your posts to show up on the homepage, you don't have to set it up this way. I'll show you that in a moment, how you would set that up. But the difference between pages and posts, like I said, is that pages are your sort of static content. You create the content and it will stay that way unless you come in and specifically edit that page. Whereas posts are content that will show up on your blog page that you're adding to on a regular basis, news, updates, things like that. And so let's go ahead and start by adding a new page, or we'll edit this contact page to start with. So while this is loading here, I'm going to go ahead and skip through this. It's kind of a tutorial to help show you how to do this. But you'll notice that on the contact page here, this is set up with blocks, and this is a form block here. So you would add your email address and a subject line and then click add form. And that's the way that somebody would contact you on the website, and those messages would come into your the email address that you put here. And then if we made any changes, which we didn't in this case, you would always want to make sure that you're clicking update here so that those changes stick. Now we're going to add a new page for, let's say, services. And when you create, excuse me, when you create a new page, you'll start off with all of these different layouts. So this is an about page or a blog page, contact pages. We're going to do a services page. And so we'll choose this one here and select use services layout. All of these layouts are built using the block editor, and you can think of the blocks as literally building blocks that you'll use to build your site. And so we've got this layout to start off with, but let's say I wanted to add more here. You can click on this arrow to add a block, and I'm going to do a columns block. And have it be 3 columns. And then within that column block, you can add images, text, or any other block type within those blocks. And there are several ways to add images. You can upload them from your computer or select them from your media library. I'm going to choose to do that in this case. And if you wanted to link that image to another page on your site or to another page outside of your site, you would use this chain link icon, which is pretty much how you would always create any sort of link. If it's a page on your site, like say we wanted to link back to our contact page from here, we could just type the title of that page. You don't have to have the URL. But if we wanted to link it instead to, sorry about that, if we wanted to link it instead to a site outside of our website, like say YouTube, which isn't a very good example, but it's just something that I can add in here quickly, then you would type in the actual URL and apply it that way. And then when someone clicks on this site, it would take them to whichever page that you specified. And then you would want to go ahead and publish those changes. And with that, I want to show the customizer. This is where you're going to make most of the sort of site-wide changes to your site. So under design and then customize, you would come, once this loads, it takes a moment to load. There are a lot of settings in here. This is where you can set things like your logo. I don't have a logo prepared for the for the demonstration purposes, but if you wanted to add your logo, which you likely would, you would add it here. And then you can also add a site icon, which is going to be the little, like you can see the W for WordPress in the browser tab. You can use like a smaller, simpler version of your logo as an icon there. And then this is also where you would create your menus. So you would go to menus and then primary. And we added a page here. So we're going to add our services page to the menu here. And we can rearrange these. So let's say I wanted blog to be the last link on the page. I can just drag it. And then if I wanted services to be nested under about as a dropdown, I can sort of indent it there and save those changes. And when I do, you'll be able to see here that now blog is the last option in the menu and services is underneath about. These menu locations here determine where the menu is being shown. So in this case, we want it to be our primary menu, but if we go back here, there's also a social menu, and we can assign that the location of social links menu, and it will populate these icons. And you're not limited to just Facebook, Twitter, and the ones shown here. But if you wanted to link those to your specific account, you would just want to edit this to have your username at the end of the URL, and then this would link, instead of just to Facebook, it would link to your specific page. And you can also add additional items and the icons based on the link that you enter there. You would use a custom link, and based on the URL that you use, it would pre-populate the appropriate social icon. So like say Twitter wasn't there and we added twitter.com here, add to menu. Sorry, this doesn't seem to be working as intended. Maybe that'll work better now. Okay. Still no, but if you get your social, your profile URL and paste it in there, I didn't have one prepared, but it would automatically, based on that URL, put the appropriate icon in there. And then you also have another menu location for this particular theme. You can see those locations here. There's primary, footer, and social. So if you wanted to display these same menu items that you have in the primary area in your footer, you can select that menu here and save. And then when we scroll down to the footer, you'll see that we now have those same icons there. And then you can add widgets and things. So widgets are going to be, you could have like recent posts. Oops. You can add recent posts so that if somebody has visited your site and they aren't necessarily on the blog page, they can see in the widget area the recent post, and you can set the number of posts to show. We're showing 3 right now because that's what we've started with. You start with 3 example posts and we haven't added additional ones. But if we had more posts to show, you could set that number to 5 or 7 or whatever you wanted it to be. You can also specify which pages you want your widgets to show up on. So like in this case, we're just going to say show if page is home. And so this widget would then only show up when someone is on your home page. If they navigate away from the home page, then this widget area or this particular widget would not be showing. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then as sort of a last step before we start answering questions, I just wanted to say a couple of things about choosing your theme, which is also here under design themes. Themes are, we're using the Themehiver right now, and you can search through, here are some of the more popular themes, but there are a lot more here, and you can search them by, let's say, simple. you can search that. Or if you want a blog centric site, you can choose to search based on blog. You can also limit those searches based on what your plan level is. So if you're on a free site and you're not looking to use a premium theme, you can show only the free themes, or the opposite, you can show only the premium themes. And what these themes are going to do is essentially apply a certain style and certain features, rather than looking at what the images and the actual content are when choosing a theme. I would suggest looking more at, is there a sidebar widget option, if that's something that you want. If you want to have widgets in your footer, you'll want to look for a theme that has footer widget area. Or for example, if you want to have a social menu at the top of your page, you can look and see, like this Olson theme, for example, it does have the social menu at the top. Those are the things that are controlled by the theme. Everything else is going to be sort of determined by those page layouts, or you can start with a blank layout and use the blocks, the building blocks that we discussed, to sort of build up that page. So I guess with that, I can answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Erin. My colleagues love to start with a delicious demo topic each day. I'm thinking this is probably the best SERP at least in the US, right? Not just in Vermont. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but okay.
Yeah.
So we have it under 20 minutes. Erin is up and running with a site dedicated to educating and perhaps selling some of the best export in all of Vermont. So thanks for getting us started, Erin. We have some really great questions that have come in the Q&A that Lai is answering behind the scenes. One that I'll start with, because it touches on the difference between themes and layouts. You were just giving us the extensive overview of themes, making a great point. When you're looking at themes, you're looking beyond the visual and you're looking for certain features, attributes of sidebars, menus, widget areas, those sorts of things. What is the difference between a theme and a layout? So if that's how you look at a theme, how do you look at a layout personally, especially now that we've added some of those great new default layouts?
Yeah, so the theme, like you just mentioned, is going to determine the kind of features and the styling of the site as a whole. Whereas on a page, when you create a new page, you this is going to deal more with how the content with the, I guess a good way to describe it would be that the theme is the stuff that is around the actual page content. Things like your footer, your sidebars, your header, logo, those things are controlled by theme. But when you go to create a page, that's what content is going to be on that specific page, and it's not going to impact any other page on your site. So if you're creating, for example, a contact page, you would select one of these contact themes, or you can build your own by choosing a blank, starting with a blank theme. And then this contact page will then be sort of filtered through the styling of the theme. So page layouts are page specific, the content that you are adding, the images that you're adding, and the theme is more how the overall site is going to function, what features are available, where things are going to be located. And if we preview this page here, you can see this contact layout applied to the theme. So here, these are all theme features, and then here is the page content that we added. And then now we're back to the footer and more theme attributes.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. And then, yeah, with the page layout, each layout is built of blocks. So then you can take a layout as a base and just start to edit it, because its components are blocks, and you can start with a layout that's kind of your building blocks and take it from there. So great.
Yeah, absolutely. You can add additional blocks to it. You can take things away. Like if I didn't, and there are also options as well for each block. Anytime you're working within a block, if you look over here to the right, we can make this a black and white block. We can set the location for this here. Let's set it in New York. We can have a satellite option or a terrain option. Whatever makes sense for you, and then you can change the color of the marker. Those are the specific options for this particular block, but every block will have additional settings that you can change over here in this right-hand corner.
Great. One other question that might this page might help demonstrate. Catherine asked, when you minimize your site to cell phone and using a responsive theme that makes sure that your whole site retrofits to look good on a mobile screen, how do you assign each column or row to appear in a certain order? Is that easy to describe, Erin, which order it would appear in mobile?
Yeah, so partially that's going to be determined by the theme. And so when you're, I'll show you in just a second how to kind of look at how things stack up with your theme. But first, we can preview this, and at any given time, you can preview how a page is going to look on a tablet-sized screen or a phone-sized screen. And so say, for example, you have this contact form and then it's stacking above the map. We can, if we don't like that, maybe we want the map to be above the contact form, we can come back here and edit to swap those out. So we can, you know, remove this block, add a map block here, and then do the same here. You can click to remove this block and go ahead and add the contact form block, and then they will stack up the opposite way. That's kind of the short answer. It can be a little bit more complicated than that, but if at any given point you find yourself running into trouble, or there's a specific page that you're working on and you want it to stack in a certain way on mobile, this question mark icon down in the lower right hand corner, you can click on that to hop into live chat or into an email with us, and then we can kind of help you on a case-by-case basis or to get that laid out the way that you would want it.
Great, really great question too. You definitely want to consider what your site looks like to the mobile user.
Absolutely.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit, couple menu related questions. The first one, well, I would look at both of these two questions as menu questions. Jessica asked, I want to have a separate page for different categories of posts. How can I organize my site in this way? So I was thinking in terms of how you'd set that up from a menu, but how would you take that one, Erin?
Okay, so there are a couple of ways to do this, but I'm going to show you this one. Okay, so first of all, we would use categories for that. This blog page that we've created is going to have every blog post that you create will show up there in reverse chronological order with the newest one on top. But if you want to have, like say in the example that, say you're a bakery, and you want to have a category for recipes, a category for like store updates, and then maybe even within the recipes section, you might have a category for cookies, cakes, pastries, whatever the case may be. You would do those with categories, and you can create categories here under posts. So we'll create a new post and say this is going to be a cookie recipe, and we want it to appear in a recipes category. So this isn't a very good title, but I'm just going to call it cookies. And then we can, under this categories section here, we can add new category, and we'll call it recipes, and add that category. And then once we publish this, we can go back to, you'll see here that this is now selected as part of the recipes category. We'll publish this, and then the way that you would link to that in your menu, we can go back. Nope, don't want to do that. I need to publish. It's always important to publish so you don't lose things. So let's publish that, and then we'll go back to the menu. Still publishing. Okay, there we go. Now we can go back to our menu, which is under Design, Customize, and then Menus. And similar to the way that we nested services under About earlier, you can add the item, and we're going to add, there are several different types of items that you can add to a menu. So there's custom links, pages. These are the pages on your site. Custom links would be things external to your site, like a YouTube channel, something like that, or just someone else's website that you want to link to. But in this case, we're talking about categories. And so we're going to add the recipes category to our menu. And we'll save it like this just so that I can show you the example. Right now you can see recipes here. However, that could get pretty big and unwieldy if you have multiple categories on your page. So I typically suggest that the categories be nested under blog. So if someone wants to see all of your blog pages, they can click on blog, or they can look at these drop down items. And you can do that anytime you create a new post by ticking the box for an existing category or creating a category like we just did.
Excellent. A much more comprehensive overview than I was starting with, but it's key to have each blog post started categorized the way you'd like, and then build it into the menu and other places around the site. Within that, you answered a great question from Bruce, which is, can you edit posts after publishing or delete posts? Of course, you can always think of your posts as living, breathing content that you can go update or add to. Just a couple more questions, Erin.
Sure.
Couple shifting gears a little bit here. Elizabeth asked about, she has a blog on another, a hosted blog, a self-hosted site, and she wants to explore how to move that to WordPress.com. I think this could be a pretty deep and longer answer, but just in general, is it easy to move a site from another provider over to WordPress.com?
The shortest answer I can say is yes. There are several different ways that you can go about doing it, and how you would specifically want to migrate it might depend on your specific situation, what other host you're using, and what kind of content you're bringing over. I would recommend jumping into live chat using that blue question mark icon, and let us know what you're trying to do, and we can recommend something. But there is a tool that we have that will allow you, and perhaps we can share the link to that afterward here, but there's a tool that will help you migrate all of your content, plugins, themes, etc. over from your self-hosted site to a WordPress.com site. But there are a few different ways to go about that, and to explain them all would be a very long answer.
Yeah, because it's different based on where you're coming from, which provider you're coming from. I will share that link in today's recap that we send out later with the video. Just a couple more questions. You're working in a premium plan, I believe, today. How much of what you shared with us today translates to our other plans, starting with free and working on up the plan spectrum?
Everything that I did today would be available on a free plan. The features the most popular features that are going to be useful on a premium plan are going to be the ability to edit CSS. So that would be to change things about your theme. So for example, maybe you want to move this social icon, the social icon menu above the main menu, for example. That's something that can be done with CSS, and being on a premium theme would allow you to do that. It would also allow you to choose, being on a premium plan would allow you to do that, and it would also allow you to choose premium themes from the theme page that we were discussing a moment ago. If I go back here to design themes, there are premium themes that you would have access to without additional cost if you were on a premium plan. But the plan we used today was a free plan. So really nothing that I did today required the premium theme.
Great, thank you.
Or premium plan, I'm sorry, I keep saying premium theme.
That's okay, that's okay. One last one, I'll take this one from Jennifer. Jennifer asks, is there a best theme for allowing or setting up videos and workout classes? And what do you recommend storage solutions for videos? So would you use YouTube embeds or use VideoPress, or how would you getting started, Jennifer?
You can easily embed into, like, here, let's go to one of our pages. I don't have a YouTube link, but just to show you how to do it. So I'll just use this services page as an example. There's a block that you can use. This isn't something that's super specific to themes. If you want to have a website that is very sort of portfolio or gallery centric, where it's like just a lot of videos and not a lot of written content, there are certainly themes that lend themselves to that. But in terms of just having a website, with a home page and about page, on any one of those pages, you can add a block. There's a video block for that. And there are a few different ways you can add the video. So you can upload it, which, or directly from your computer. You can pick it from your media library, but inserting from a URL certainly would use less of the storage space that's available to you, and it's kind of an easier way to do it. So if you have the video on YouTube, you can click insert from URL and then just, paste that URL in there and then click that sort of return icon, and it will populate that video directly into the page.
Excellent. Excellent. And as we near the end of our time, pointing out there's a couple great questions remaining in Q&A. Definitely, as Erin did, always pointing you to that blue question mark in the lower right to get to work with our support, our incredible team of happiness engineers. There were some big questions about transferring sites over to WordPress.com. There's some menu-specific questions and security-specific questions and widgets and so on. So definitely encouraging the conversation to continue over there in our support channel. And one or two to wrap with. Elizabeth asked if today's webinar would be shared out. As always, we'll share it back out later today or early tomorrow in video form. And you can also head over to wordpress.com/webinars. You can look at all the webinars we did last week and over the past month. And you can also sign up to join us throughout the remainder of this week. For example, tomorrow's topic will be all about payments. Connie had asked a great question about setting up so that customers can pay online, schedule appointments, that sort of thing. I would suggest actually both tomorrow's workshop and Thursday's. Tomorrow we'll talk about simple and recurring payments. And on Thursday, we'll talk about WooCommerce, which is our full e-commerce tool set. So great webinars coming to you throughout the week. And again, for those of you who stuck with us today, thank you so much for joining us. Huge thank you to Lai for answering, it looks like over 30 questions behind the scenes, and to Erin for joining us. Once again, click over to support and get help right away if you have a specific or an urgent question. And look out for that email today, which also includes your discount code and survey. And with that, Erin, a huge thanks for walking us through getting started on WordPress.com today.
You're welcome. It was fun. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day.
Bye.